Segment 5, what Obama is up to. Having demolished the New Deal, we now turn to President Obama. Thomas Sowell, quote, shortly before the Obama administration took office, the man who would become President Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, said, quote, you never want a serious crisis to go to waste, close quote. Why do you find that significant?
Because it means that the crisis is presenting them with an opportunity to do things they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And that's how he sees it. And everything that has happened since the new administration indicates that that's how the administration as a whole sees it.
So the crisis is providing an opportunity for President Obama and his supporters to do what they would have liked to do,
yes,
but would otherwise have been unable to do.
Just as in the case of the New Deal, that the New Dealers, most of the key people in the New Deal, were for big government intervention long before there was a stock market crash. It's just that the stock market crash gave them an opportunity to step in. It's another parallel is that people are talking about all these highly intelligent people with whom the president has surrounded himself. In Washington, FDR surrounded himself with highly intelligent people. That is no guarantee of anything, except brilliant rationalizations for failure in some cases.
All right. Let me push back a little bit, Tom. When President Obama took office, the financial system appeared close to collapse. Serious economists, including our colleague at the Hoover Institution, Robert Barrow, wrote that there was a significant chance of not just recession, but depression. And today we've got a financial system that's functioning. Housing prices are settling rather than crashing. And there seems to be a general consensus that we'll see a recovery within a year to 18 months. So why not take President Obama at his word and simply impute to him the motives that he claims? He came into office, passed a stimulus bill and a raft of other measures because of the financial crisis demanded that he do so, and it seems to have worked.
Well, I'm not as optimistic in predicting how things are going to be wonderful in a couple of years, but we'll know more in a couple of years. If you look at the stimulus package, the one thing it has not done is stimulate. Prior to the bailout money for the banks were lending a certain amount. After the bailout money, the banks were lending less. The stimulus means that he's not depending just on the government's own money being spent producing the result, that this will stimulate others in the economy. It is not. The circulation of money, the speed with which money circulates in the economy, fell to the lowest level in 50 years. It fell during
after the stimulus.
Yes. Business reduced its investment by something like 25 or more percent. So that if you're looking in terms of what actually happens rather than the words that are used, what actually has happened shows no such stimulation as they're talking about.
Let me mention a few administration economic proposals, all couched in terms of controlling costs and spurring growth, all linked in one way or another to the economic crisis that was started during the housing bust. You tell me what you believe the American people should understand about each. We've talked about the stimulus. You made it clear you don't believe it's stimulative at all. The cap-and-trade global warming bill that just passed the House in late June and now moves to the Senate. The New York Times says the legislation, quote, falls far short of what many European governments and environmentalists have said is needed to avert the, don't make me laugh, Tom, to avert the worst effects of global warming, close quote. What does Tom Sowell have to say about this cap-and-trade legislation?
It's a wonderful way to raise money without saying that you're taxing people. Whether it will in fact cut down on the greenhouse gases significantly, and whether even if it does, whether that will really be enough, because after all, we are only a small part of the world, to affect the entire temperature of the Earth, it seems quite dubious, despite the sort of notion that it's a proven fact that man-made factors create global warming. There are literally hundreds of people who spend their lives specializing in the study of climate who say no, that is not the case.
Healthcare reform. President Obama said in late June that he's determined to enact a major reform before the end of the summer. From BarackObama.com, quote, a moral imperative by any measure, A better healthcare, by any measure, mark that, Dr. Sowell, a better healthcare system is also essential to rebuilding our economy. We want to make health insurance work for people and businesses, not just insurance and drug companies, close quote.
Oh, my, it's hard to even know where to start. It really is. First of all, what earthly reason is there to believe that the government of all institutions can make health care less expensive? It can refuse to pay the expenses, which is entirely different. Other countries have gone that route. They have refused to pay the cost of maintaining the health system. And so in places like Britain or Canada, you don't find the same availability of health care that you have in the United States. You have something like recently studies show that 30,000 Canadians have gone to other countries for health treatment, even though they get it free of charge in Canada. And they've got to go pay for it somewhere else, and they go because the quality is not the same. The MRIs per capita in Canada are about half what they are in the United States. In Britain, which also has a government health program, they're about a fourth of what they are in the United States. If you're talking about going in for surgery, I don't have the exact figures right in front of me, but something like a fourth of the people in Canada wait 6 months or more for surgery. In Britain, it's a higher percentage. In the United States, only 5% wait that long. In Canada, you wait 10 weeks for an MRI to find out what's wrong with you. Now, a lot of things can happen in 10 weeks, and many of them are very bad. So if you want something cheaper, you can always get something cheaper. It's just that you're not going to get the same quality. In order for them to bring down the cost of health care, the government would have to operate the system more efficiently than the market does. I can't think of anything that the government operates more efficiently than the market does. And if it's all, you see the profits of the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals and all that, there are thousands of nonprofit organizations in this country. If the profits are the problem, the nonprofit organizations could go in, undercut these people who are making these unwarranted profits, and lower the cost to us all. Why don't they do it?
Final question, Tom, and this is from a viewer who sent in a question by Twitter to be submitted to you. This is from Andrew Hazlitt at The Occasional, and it underlies a great deal of what we've been talking about. Did people on the right of center get lazy and complacent about defending free markets after 1989? Is that why we've ended up where we are today?
Oh, I don't know. It depends. It depends who you're talking about. If you're talking about politicians, there's no question about it. I mean, when when Bush 41 talked about a kinder and gentler economy, I mean, that was the beginning of the downward spiral. When his son started talking about compassionate conservatism, which does not mean compassion to the taxpayer, by the way, that was a further move in that direction. So lots of folks, when they got power, it was easier for the Republicans, for example, to do what the Democrats had done, use that power to do special favors for people here and there in hopes of gaining their political and financial support. Fine. They've now paid the price.
Dr. Thomas Sowell, author of The Housing Boom and Bust, thank you very much.